Today we are going to discuss about um, how to calculate test of means in R. So this is actually chapter 6. Test of means, test of single mean, independency test, patchy test. One we know about test of association. So this one included chi-square test and also Fisher-Z test. So for test of mean, as you can see here, I already pasted the command line that we are going to use. First, we have the word set SID equals to 0. So why do we have to set SID equals to 0? This is because if you search, why do we have to search to set SID in the bracket 0 in R? Because we want to generate using function. So as you remember, function is something, it depends on the randomization. So to make sure that each and every one of us right now, so we have like 25 students right now. So whenever we are trying to do some exercise using function, we need to make sure that the results that we get is the same. So in order to do that, we need to use this one, set SID in the bracket 0. So right now I'm going to show you the calculation of the mean using the data that we call as tree volume. So you need to check the tree volume. As usual, if you want to make sure that do you have the data in your R right now, so try to look at this tree volume. So if you click tree volume, alright, so we have the data. Oh, where is it? Okay, this one, tree volume, and then this is the data. So for tree volumes, we have 75 observations and then only one variable, which is V1. So this is tree volume. I got this from this command line. So we want to view tree volume. So we want to know what is the data. So I write this command and then we get to see it. What is tree volume? Okay. So right now, for tree volume, I assign that we are using the normal distribution. So normal distribution, the n just now, if you look at the data, we have 75. So if you remember, you need to know the n for random normal distribution. So the mean for this, you need to know what is the mean for this data. In this case, I've already known about it. So the value is 36,500, and then what is the standard deviation? So right now, I just want to run the t-test for tree volume. So our t-test, so mu is, it depends on what do you want. So for this example, I want to know whether the mu is less than is the number of shipment. In this case, for the tree volume, is it less than 39,000? So our H now, the mu equals to 39,000. So when we run this, I already run this just now. So when we run this equation, if we look at the console right now, so you are going to get the one sample t-test. So in the one sample t-test, this is the results. The data that is being used right now is tree volume, and then this is the t statistics. So this is the degree of freedom, and then this is the p-value. And then the result shows that the alternative hypothesis true mean is not equals to 39,000. So at 95% confidence interval, so this is the value of your confidence interval if you remember. And then the sample estimate of mean, the mean of x is 36,447. So this is the results that you get from this one. So if you look at the p-value, the value of the p, this is, so what does it mean? Is it rejected or accepted? So our test right now, since our hash now is the mu equals to 39,000, so this is actually two-tailed test. So we just want to know whether we do not know whether it is greater than 39,000 or less than 39,000, and then the hypothesis right now is not equal to 39,000, and then this is the confidence interval. So the value that you got right now, the p-value is actually less than 0.000. So when your p-value is less, significantly less from 0.05, so we know that the current shipment of this, in this case, 3 volume, or the has a significantly lower volume than we usually see. So it is less than 39,000. So it is not equals to 39,000. So this is for our one sample t-test. So let's try to do PET t-test. So to conduct a PET t-test, we need to have 2 vectors of data. So just now we only have one data, one variable with just one data set. So right now, if we want to use the PET t-test, we need to have two groups or 2 vectors of data, and then the test we need to use. Let's try to look at these. Let's try to run this. I'm not sure if we have the data. All right, so we have the data. So right now we use the set seed to 820. So to make sure that everyone got the same, in this case, use 2820. So let's say if I set to 0, you need to set to 0, because we want to make sure that we have the same answer, because we are using right now the function of normal function, which is random. So for pre-treat, we want it, so this is the value that we have for pre-treat and post-treat. And then in order for you to run the PET t-test, we need to use this one, t-test, and then we need to define the first vectors that we have. The first one is pre-treat, the first data, and then this is the second one, the post-treat, and then we need to put here the argument that PET equal to true. So we are trying to do the PET t-test, so we need to define it as true. Okay, and after you run that, you got all right, let's see the result. So it is going to show you the answer, the results for the PET t-test. So the data that is being used, that are being used right now, is pre-treat and post-treat. And then this is the t statistic, the degree of freedom. We have 1000. If you want to see the data, you can use like what I've just done before this, using the view. So the view command line, and then the p-value also very small. So we reject hash null, so it means that the true difference in mean is not equal to 0. So there are significant difference between the pre-treat and the post-treat. So the result is not the same, before and after is different. So this is the value for 95% confident interval. And the sample estimate that we have is 7.44, which is lies in between the confidence interval. So this is how to run the PET t-test. So you have to remember, you need to define first what kind of distribution that you are going to use. So we are using the R normal distribution for this one. So this is the command line. So the data here, we assign in that using the if normal distribution, you need to define the n, the mean, and the standard deviation. This is as usual. Okay, so the next, let's try to do independent sample. So for independent sample, we can do. Oh, so right, today I'm using the notes from Data Science Plus, so you can go to this website for t-test. So for independent samples, there are so many type of structure of the form of test that how you're going to use. So right now, if it is independent sample, so you need to know that we have 2 vectors, which is R assume that the variances of Y, the first vector, the first data set and the second data set are unequal. So okay, let's try to copy the command line. So for this set fit equals to 0. So we have two data sets. So if you look at this, we have two data sets. First is Cleveland, the second one is New York. So we are trying to compare the spending between two different populations. First in Cleveland and the second one is New York. So we do not know the distribution. We assume that it is normal because the data is big enough. So in this case, we have n equals to 50. So this is the mean for Cleveland, and then this one is the standard deviation, and this one is for New York. So this is an independent sample because the spending limits or the spending ability for those who live in Cleveland obviously is not equal to those who live in New York. So when you are trying to do the independent samples test, you need to define that the first data is Cleveland spending and then New York spending. So we assume that the variance equal true. Okay, so let's see what happened. So when we run the data, so this is the t statistic, this is the degree of freedom, and then this is the p-value. So it is significantly, so we reject hash null. So the alternative hypothesis that we use in this task is that actually there are true difference in mean. So mean is not equal to 0. So obviously the spending of people who live in Cleveland and New York is not the same. So this is the confidence interval, and then this is the sample estimate. The first one is for X, and then the second one we have for Y. So if you look at the mean, it is obviously there are significant differences between these two mean. For Cleveland, we only have 251, but for New York, we have 301. All right, for this case, actually both of these beta is a numeric. So for when it is numeric, let's try to do where the y1 is numeric and the y2 is binary. Okay, so let's see what happened. This is according to City. You can try this actually. Okay, so right now we have different kinds of, first we have spending. So spending is numeric, and Y2 right now we have city. So city obviously is not numerical data because we define it as Cleveland, and then we define the New York. So this is the data that we have right now. So this is actually, we are combining two different data sets, first Cleveland and then New York spending. We combine the data into one what we call this one. If you look at this, we have one right now. We have in the environment, we have the new variable called as spending. This is actually the combination of Cleveland and spending, and then city is actually we have combined these two data too. If you remember just now, we have 50 for Cleveland, but then for New York we have 50, so the combination are going to get 100. So if you look at the data in this one, in the environment right now, the number equals to 100 because this is actually the combination of Cleveland and New York. So this is also the same with this one, city. So for the t-test, the independent t-test we are doing right now, spending and city, variance dot equals to true. Also if you run this, so this is the result, two sample t-test. This is the t statistic, and then this is the degree of freedom, this is the p-value, and then it also shows that there are true difference in the mean, it not equals to 0. So the previous two tests is when we assume that we have equal variance, even though we have difference. One is from Cleveland and another one is from New York. So right now we are trying to do when the equal variance not assumed. So All right. For the test, right now, if you check this, we assume that the variance equal for this one. This is also the same, but then for this one right now, the test where we do not have equal variance. We do not assume that each of Cleveland and New York have equal variance. So you look at the results right now, they no longer use two sample t-test. They are using the Welch two sample t-test. So this is the data that are being used, and this is its statistic, the degree of freedom, and then this is the p-value. So based on the result, we also reject the hash null, and this also means there are two difference in the mean. Mean is not equals to 0. So in each case, we see that the result really do not differ substantially. There's no big deal. There's no like clear cut. All three results shows that yes, there are shows that New Yorkers spend more each month at restaurant compared to Clevelanders. So if you want to test this using the Patsy test, equal or unequal variance, it depends on you, depends on your data. Alright, so however, if you want to test the equality of variance in your data set prior to running independent sample t-test, first you need to make sure that what is the status of your variance. Is it the same? Is it equal? Is it not? So you need to run the test. So you can use this one, variance.test bar.test, so that you are using Cleveland spending and New York spending. So let's see what happened. Is it equal or not actually? Okay, so this is the result. So the F test to compare two variances. So this is the F statistic and degree of freedom, denominator, and then the p-value. So you look at this. It is found that is it equal or not equal? So the results is the true ratio of variances is not equals to 1. So 95% confidence interval, and then this is the ratio of variances. If you do not know how to actually read the results from this one variance test, you can try to search for this in this help. Let's try to look at this VAL test. Okay, let's see what happened. So this is the help. VAL test is actually to test to compare two variances. So this is the description. This is actually to perform an F-test to compare the variances of two samples from normal population. So we assume that both Cleveland and New Yorkers is actually normally distributed. So this is the function behind the function that we have. So this is actually the details of the function that being used. So this is the argument, and then this is the detail. So if you need to look at this, you can try to read and run. So this is which one is the hypothesis. So the null hypothesis is that the ratio of the variances of the population from which x and y were drawn, or in the data to which linear model x and y were fitted, is equal to ratio. So this is the explanation for what we are using right now. So our hash null, actually, if our p-value is below than 0.05, then we can reject the null hypothesis of equal variances. But then right now, we do not get a significant p-value. So we can assume that the variances are equal. Actually, we cannot say that the variances are equal, but we do not have sufficient evidence to reject the hash null based on the data that we have. So in this sample, we do not have enough sufficient to reject the hash null. So that's why since it is not below than 0.05, so we accept that our hash null is true. So our hash null in this case is our equal variance. So in this case, we cannot reject hash null, so we have equal variance. All right.